Hello and welcome back. In this blackexellist presentation, we will highlight the 10 things you didn't know about Eugene Bullard.
Welcome to blackexellist.com, the site where we celebrate Black excellence, opulence, and affluence. Our mission is to inspire you as we enlighten you.
Pioneering Black aviator Eugene Bullard descended from slaves to become the world's first Black fighter pilot. Growing up in Georgia, Bullard faced discrimination and the threat of lynching. Thus, he ran away from home, destined to make his way to France in its less racially divisive society. He would join the French Foreign Legion and later the Lafayette Flying Corps, where he saw fierce combat during the World Wars and was wounded multiple times. He returned to the United States with a chest full of medals, but still faced discrimination and racism. From the racialized world of Jim Crow Georgia, the boxing rings of England and France, to the killing fields of World War I, and the celebrated jazz clubs of the Montmartre, Eugene Bullard was an exceptional person and true hero, and we want to take the time to share his story. In this original blackexellist video, we will be featuring Eugene Bullard, the father of Black aviators. So without further ado, let's get started. 1. Eugene Bullard was born on October 9, 1895. Eugene Jacques Bullard was born on October 9, 1895 in Columbus, Georgia. He was the youngest son among 10 children, 3 of whom died in childbirth. His father, Octave Bullard, was the son of a Black slave. His Creek Indian mother, Josephine Yokely Thomas, died when he was just 6. Young Gene's childhood was filled with bigotry, hatred, and racism, which made him very unhappy with his life. He in turn made several unsuccessful attempts to run away from home to escape poverty and the Jim Crow laws of the South. He was inspired by tales his father told him of a faraway land where a man's social prospects were not limited by his skin color: France. In 1906, at the age of 11, Bullard ran away for good, and for the next 6 years, he wandered the South in search of freedom. 2. Bullard was determined to reach France by any means necessary. In 1912, he stowed away on the Martyr Russ, a German freighter bound for Hamburg, and ended up in Aberdeen, Scotland. From there, he made his way to London, where he worked as a boxer and slapstick performer in an African-American entertainment troupe. Gene dedicated himself so much to the sport of boxing that he became a bantamweight boxer in Liverpool and eventually fought to become a lightweight champion. With 42 professional bouts behind him, Bullard finally achieved his childhood dream in 1913 when he arrived in Paris, France for a boxing match. Settling in Paris, he became so comfortable with French customs that he decided to make a home there. 3. Bullard joins the French Army. On August 3, 1914, Germany declared war on France, and the next day its armies invaded France in neutral Belgium. Bullard, though still an American citizen, decided that he wanted to defend the country in which he had sought equality. He joined the Foreign Legion on October 19th at the age of 19. As a soldier in the Legion's 3rd Régiment des Marches and later the 170th Infantry Regiment, Bullard fought in the Champagne and Verdun campaigns with such distinction that he was awarded the Croix de Guerre with Star as well as the Médaille Militaire. He was wounded 3 times, the last on March 5, 1916, leaving him too disabled for further infantry service. He was taken from the battlefield and sent to Lyon to recuperate. While on leave in Paris, Bullard bet a friend $2,000 that despite his color and injuries, he would enlist in the French flying service. 4. Bullard joins the Lafayette Flying Corps. Too disabled for infantry services, Bullard set his sights on rejoining the fight as an aviator. With the help of some influential friends and his determination, Bullard made good on his bet, and in November 1916, he was accepted into the French Aéronautique Militaire as a machine gunner. He started training at Cazaux on October 6, 1916, but while there, he learned about the Lafayette Flying Corps, an organization for farming American volunteers out to French squadrons. So shortly thereafter, on November 15th, Bullard joined the LFC and requested pilot training. 15 days later, he reported to the aviation school at Tours. On July 20th, 1917, Bullard reached a milestone that many doubted and one that was unachievable in America due to racism. He received his pilot's wings on brevet number 6259. Shortly thereafter, on August 20th, Bullard received orders to report to Plessis-Belleville, the last stop before a unit assignment. Returning from a practice flight on his first day there, he found new orders awaiting him to report to Escadrille number 93 at Bar-le-Duc, 40 miles behind the lines near Verdun, where he fought as a legionnaire. Upon receiving the news, Bullard remarked, "I'm headed for heaven, hell, or glory." Combat was almost a daily occurrence, and Bullard quickly earned a superb aviation fighting record. Bullard had an insignia on his fighter plane that portrayed a heart with a dagger running through it, with the slogan, "All blood runs red." 5. Bullard flew with a rhesus monkey named Jimmy. Bullard quickly became known for flying into dangerous situations. He amassed a distinguished record, flying 20 combat missions and downing at least one German plane. During one of his leaves, Bullard bought a rhesus monkey. When he arrived back at the base, he and his simian companion Jimmy quickly became the subject of much friendly banter with their French squadron mates. Right before Eugene's first mission over enemy territory, his commander was addressing his pilots in person, remarking that Bullard had more medals than any of them, but fewer flying hours than all of them. Amid a roar of laughter, the commander joked that it was the entire squadron's duty to help bring Eugene from his first mission to prevent Jimmy from becoming an orphan.
If you love our videos and have a suggestion for a future edition, let us hear from you in the comments section below.
6. An altercation with a French officer led to his discharge from the military. After America entered the war in April of 1917, Bullard, who still loved the country he'd left, applied to fly for the American Expeditionary Forces. He was rejected. To add insult to injury, the American was surprised and confused when French military authorities went a step further and ordered him out of aviation and into a non-combat position in the French infantry. It was apparent that the American army sought to maintain the statutes of Jim Crow, where black and white soldiers were kept separate. Blacks were normally employed in menial services, and black troops were typically led by white officers. Eugene felt the sting of this rejection and was distraught at the reintroduction of the racism that he thought he left behind as a kid. Bullard returned to the Aéronautique Militaire, but he was summarily removed after an apparent confrontation with a French officer. The American flyer managed to avoid a court-martial only because of his stellar reputation and solid record he had built as an aviator fighter. He returned to the 170th Infantry Regiment, but was then further humiliated by being assigned to its service battalion until his honorable discharge on October 23, 1919. Although Bullard's flying career had come to a premature conclusion, his devotion to the Legion and his beloved France never waned. 7. Bullard rejoins the French army as a spy, but eventually returns to the U.S. After the First World War, Jean remained in France during the 1920s and 1930s. Bullard worked as a jazz drummer and even ran a nightclub called Le Grand Deux. His club was one of the most popular and famous spots for singers and musicians at the time. Due to his expertise as a prize fighter and knowledge of physical fitness and therapy, Jean eventually owned and operated an athletic gym. Luminaries such as the Prince of Wales, Pablo Picasso, Ernest Hemingway, F. Scott Fitzgerald, and England's Prince of Wales were seen in his establishments. He also became friends with Louis Armstrong, Josephine Baker, and Langston Hughes. During this time, he declared his love and married a Frenchwoman named Marcelle de Stromont, the daughter of a wealthy Parisian family. He enjoyed his domestic life, but did not care for the conventions of high society. Therefore, he and his wife eventually divorced. During the Second World War, Eugene agreed to serve France again as a spy. He was very successful at this endeavor because the Germans didn't think that African Americans were capable of understanding German, and Eugene spoke English, German, and French. While serving in this capacity, he occasionally worked with the famous French spy Cléopâtre Terrier. Escaping from German-occupied France and fearing he would be caught by the Nazis, Jean returned back to the United States, arriving in New York, where he was later joined by his two daughters. Back in the States, for the first time in 34 years, Bullard settled in Harlem and spent the rest of the war working at the Staten Island shipyard. 8. Bullard would be awarded the French military's highest honors. Once a prize fighter and highly esteemed war pilot, ironically, Gene would live in complete obscurity in New York for a number of years. He was surprised to get a call from the French president Charles de Gaulle in 1954, who invited him back to Paris to be one of the chosen veterans to light the everlasting flame at the French tomb of the unknown soldier under the Arc de Triomphe. On October 9, 1959, the American pilot was again contacted by the French consulate, this time to notify him that he was about to be awarded the Knight of Legion of Honor for his service in 2 world wars, the highest-ranking order and decoration bestowed by France. It was the 15th decoration given to him by the French government. 9. Bullard died of stomach cancer in 1961. On October 12, 1961, 3 days after his 67th birthday, Bullard died of stomach cancer. The world's first black aviator was laid to rest in the Federation of French War Veterans Cemetery in Flushing, New York. Per his request, he was wearing the uniform of a French Foreign Legionnaire, and his casket was draped in the French tricolor. 10. President Clinton posthumously promoted Bullard to rank of second lieutenant. Bullard was never recognized in the United States for any of his achievements until 1994. The American fighter pilot who earned the nickname the Black Swallow of Death was finally recognized by the United States Air Force 30 years after his death. President Bill Clinton would do the honors as he promoted him to the rank of second lieutenant. Also, in 1994, he was honored posthumously by the Smithsonian Institution's National Air and Space Museum. Even the state of Georgia, where he fled more than a century ago, unveiled a statue of Bullard on October 9, 2019 at the Museum of Aviation near Robins Air Force Base. His admirers say the 6-foot 3-inch bronze monument will finally give him some of the honor and respect after decades of minimal recognition in both Georgia and the United States. Additionally, a display case in the National Museum of the U.S. Air Force in Dayton, Ohio, also honors the father of the Black American aviators who came after him, including the Tuskegee Airmen who fought in World War II and helped pave the way for the desegregation of the U.S. military.
We appreciate the fact that you stayed with us until the end. Thank you for spending time with us, and don't forget to like this video. Also, make sure you subscribe so that you never miss a video. Bye for now. We will see you tomorrow.